We are back with Michael Notar, the Conneaut School Superintendent, and it's been just about a year.
Yeah, I think I've been on here twice, so it's, but as far as employment in the district, yeah, I started about mid-July last year, so almost a year, yeah.
I remember this show was going on, and I went to the meeting. They approved you. I grabbed you away from everybody else, asked you two questions, and came back with the video.
Yeah, I still remember that. I did. Yeah.
Who is this guy? And even though it's summertime, school people are still working. My grandson Henry, his mother's a teacher in Conneaut, but he goes to North Kingsville. I was trying to convince him that the teachers stays in the classroom all summer. And I wonder what she does during the school year. No, she doesn't. She has a house. She doesn't stay there all the time. So I couldn't convince him.
Yeah, it's very busy the summertime, especially for our offices, just getting things lined up for next school year. I think the big move the last week, about midweek, we moved our board offices from the southeast building to the middle school. So we're officially moved in over there, our custodial staff.
What was the thinking about that?
The space was available at the middle school. There were 4 empty classrooms over there, so the space was available to make the transfer. So myself, along with my secretary, the treasurer, and her staff are over at the middle school. Our director of student services, Sarah Bumgardner, she's going to be housed at our Lakeshore building.
Okay.
Because she oversees our special needs program as well as our preschool, and that's where that building houses our preschool program. So it's a great location for her. And then our technology department, which was on the first floor in the southeast building, will be relocated to the high school where there was available space there as well. So we kind of restructured our administrative staff to make it more beneficial for our staff and most importantly our students. So the move's been great. Our custodial staff, I just want to thank them. They spent a couple days last week moving us over, got us all settled in. It looks great. It's a great environment, and I'm just happy because I can hear kids throughout the day next year.
Right.
And that's the best part of it.
I remember, I think it was the first interview here on it, is that one of the reasons you came here was that there was another layer of bureaucracy between you and the students. I don't know if that's a great way to describe it or not, but it was like other people and then you, so that you didn't have that correlate, you didn't have that direct contact with students. So when you announced that you were doing this, I thought maybe it was the fact then that you're going to have students where you were and across the street. You're going to have half of the student population.
Yeah, and it's nice, being a teacher for a number of years and a building administrator. It's nice being in a building with students and teachers and being able to interact with the students at lunchtime in between periods. So when the bell rings, I'll be out in the hallways and interacting with students and eating down in the cafeteria with them. So that's why we're in education for our students. So I'm actually looking forward to it. It'll be a great change.
You'll be out there supervising the busing and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Quit running, kid.
Yeah, I'll be out there helping out as much as I can with their middle school, both our middle school and Gateway. Right across the street, trying to help out those two buildings, the administrators and the teaching staff. So looking forward to it.
So where are they going to have the school board meetings?
School board meetings will be moved to the high school. We wanted to keep it in a central location, so we felt we're going to have it at the high school library. So we'll transfer all the media equipment over. Our July board meeting won't be televised or recorded just because we're in the process of transferring all that equipment over there, but we'll be back up and running in August. So,
Okay. I know, like, where's Geneva schools? I don't know if they're housed at Geneva High School, but they have their meetings in the auditorium there. So it's like three seats are filled and the rest of it is a spacious area. It's like even if they have a normal number of people there, it's like nobody cares because.
Yeah, ours will be in the high school, which is nice. It's our high school library is very nice. It's carpeted, nice environment, so it'll be a great setting for our board meetings.
Yeah, I was in there for where the students were announcing they were giving out the money for the different charities. Yeah, that was a really nice program.
It was a wonderful program. Looking forward to it again next year, and again being on the the Conneaut Foundation and
philanthropic board.
Yeah, that's always a difficult word to say.
Philanthropic. 3 times.
That's why I was glad I didn't have to speak that way. But it's a great program. The students learned a lot about it, and walking away from it, I think the best thing that I've heard is when the students kind of mentioned how the whole entire process in the program made them realize the needs in the community, and
Yeah.
get to know the community a little bit better, and knowing that moving from this point that more giving towards different organizations throughout not only Asheville County but just within Conneaut as well. So that was great to hear the students talk about that.
Yeah, 'cause I would think kids would, without any outside influence, it would be like, why aren't more people doing things for me? Why isn't there this service
Right.
for me? Why isn't there that for me? Why aren't they doing that for me? Rather than seeing the greater need.
Yeah, and until you're put in that situation and realize that there is a greater need, that we're very, blessed with what we have and appreciate what we have on a daily basis, until you see what others may not have, and then it opens up your eyes. And having two kids of my own that are teenagers, it's having them do work such as that to make them realize that what they have, they need to appreciate every day, and just be very, very thankful. So it was a great learning experience, not only for the teacher but for the students as well.
Students do have to have a certain amount of community service, correct?
Yeah.
To graduate.
To graduate, so many hours of community service, which is great. It's one of the, it's something different in this district compared to other districts that I've been at, but it's a wonderful requirement because
Yeah.
it allows them the opportunity to get out and work with other outside organizations. And actually, one of the programs next year, some of our juniors and seniors can utilize some of the hours that during the school day towards community service. We're going to have a program next year, and that was one of the excitements about coming on the program, is just talked about some exciting things for next school year. But talking about community service and hours, one of the programs we're going to offer next year is called Big Spartan, Little Spartan, where we're going to take, a lot of times, juniors and senior students, if they take a full academic course, their freshman, sophomore, and their junior year, a lot of them almost reach the credit requirements for graduation. And so we'll get the number of juniors and seniors that are in study halls or want to work in the office. So to better utilize their time and to help our youth, we're going to allow juniors and seniors with certain requirements. They have to have a 3.0 GPA, have their own transportation to school, and also their behavior has to be, they have to have a good behavior record. What they'll be able to do is during the course of the school year next year, during their scheduled study hall, we'll match those students up with a kindergarten through 5th grade teacher and class. So when they are scheduled to go to their study hall, they can leave the school building, either go to Lakeshore or Gateway, and match up with their teacher and their group of students. And that way they can help the teacher out, they can help the students, whether it's allowing the younger students to read to them, provide some intervention services, do some activities. Because not only are our teachers great role models for our students, but also our high school students as well. And sometimes high school students don't realize what a positive role model or impact they can make on our younger students, particularly in grades K through 5. So we're excited about that. We'll be able to match up, at least 1 or 2 high school students per class in grades K through 5, and kind of develop those student-to-student relationships, which is great.
I would think like the little kids, it'd be kind of cool to have like a high school student. It's like, hey.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's I still remember first getting into teaching and doing my student teaching and working with students, and just having the opportunity for students to be able to read to an older student as well, because some of our younger students may not get that opportunity to actually read to an adult, and it doesn't have to be a parent, it can be a high school student. And again, just to develop those relationships and have positive role models in our younger students' lives that can make a difference in the direction that they go as they approach middle school and high school level.
Yeah, even before this program, though, I see many places where the public service that students do makes an impact. I mean, I went to Safety Town, and there's the kids, the high school kids, that are helping the kids with their, on the little tricycles and that kind of stuff. And when they have a presentation by a police officer or something, the kids are kind of laying on the volunteers, and I mean, they're the relationship. And camp at the Conneaut Arts Center, that they have kids, and I talked to some of them, and they were talking about how when they were a kid, they went to our camp and they wanted to go back and give back. And when I go to the Asheville County Animal Protective League, there's a lot of kids that go there and walk dogs and pet kittens, and there's a definite impact as it
It's
is.
a win-win situation. It really is, because our younger students get the opportunity to work with our older ones, and sometimes the older students get more out of it than our youth. And,
Yeah.
you know, my son was one. You know, he just recently graduated, but they did a similar program in his district, and he actually, I think he got more out of it than the younger students he worked with. He got really attached to them, and you know, when Christmas time came, wanted to buy gifts for them, and really developed that relationship.
Yeah.
And that was great for me to see my own son, who's a teenager, really work with younger students, and you know, that may change his career choice and what he wants to go into and so forth.
Well, that's just something I thought of, is I wonder if there would be a bigger percentage of people that may want to go into education because of that. They didn't know what they wanted to do, and after spending some days with the kids.
Right. And that's, again, that's great for us as a district.
Right.
If that changes the minds of some of our high school students and they go off to college and education, and you know, if we have an opportunity to bring them back, then that's also great for our school district as well. So that's one of the programs next year. I think, you know, when you talk about our older students working with our younger students, we are going to, in fact, I'm starting to work on it today. We're going to have our first ever back to school celebration. We're going to do it on August 17th. It's the Monday before the first day of school. We're going to have it at our Spark complex, and we're excited about it. It'll take place from about 11 o'clock in the morning till 1 o'clock in the afternoon. We're going to have some building administrators and teachers. We'll have tables set up for each of our school buildings with information to pass out. Parents can sign up to be a part of, be a parent volunteer, or be on the PTC. We'll have little raffle tickets for students to fill out per building. We're going to have some, you know, free food and chips and hot dogs and water. Just the availability for our students to be able to walk around, talk to some teachers and administrators. We'll have a school bus there for our younger students to get on and take a look at, particularly our kindergarten students. We'll talk with the Conneaut Police Department, have a police car there that they can kind of take a look at. And we're going to ask all our older students, our student athletes, to come and walk around and kind of mingle with the younger students and the parents. Well, you know, the plan is to do that from about 11 to 12, and everybody kind of talk with one another, walk around, and then we'll head into the stadium, and we'll have our band perform their halftime performance for all the students and parents. And then we're going to have a raffle giveaway for our students, and we'll have things that students can win, such as bicycles, book bags, book supplies, t-shirts. Some of our high school students will offer some free athletic passes for the whole entire year and so forth. So it's just a great way to kind of bring our, not only our school community, but our entire community together. So you don't have to have a child in school to come to the back to school celebration. I have a newsletter going out at the end of July to all the homes in Conneaut, and that will be on there to kind of remind everybody of the date and time. And so we're going to welcome everybody to come. We're looking forward to it.
It's got to be kind of, for someone, a scary experience. Going to school the first time.
Yeah.
I think I was in kindergarten back in the 1920s, but I can remember asking the people that had already gone the year before all kinds of questions. I can still remember that, and the idea of failing kindergarten or something. I mean, how many fail? I can remember that. Just dumb questions to somebody that age, but I think actually seeing people, and it would generate a little bit more comfort. I don't know.
And I think that's the goal, is to, you know, a lot of times in education, and both students and as well as employees, just education in general, we always look forward to the end of the school year. It's getting close. Where in fact we should be celebrating that we're coming back to school and bringing that excitement back. But it breaks, you know, some of those walls down that not only the students may have, but also the parents, you know, that to get them into that comfort level that they can actually, you know, they'll be able to meet some of the teachers and the principals outside the school setting in a relaxed environment. And so it's not only sometimes fearful for our students to go to school for the first time, whether it's a kindergarten or a new student to the district, but also the parents as well, and allow them the flexibility to be outside the school and actually have a conversation and interact with other teachers and principals and myself and so forth. So
get to know them before school actually starts.
Yep, yeah, and you know, it's just a way of celebrating things, bringing everybody together at one time, and kind of celebrating that we're going back to school, and it's going to be a great year.
You mentioned that you'd be going into the stadium then, and the band was going to perform. Now, I was down at the parade for 4th of July, and the band was marching by, and it seems, is it getting bigger?
It's definitely getting bigger. Yeah, it's a lot of our athletic programs, and including band, have grown over the past couple of years, which is great.
Yes.
When we see the numbers increase, that more students are want to be involved in extracurricular activities, whether it's athletic, whether it's anything in the fine arts, whether it's chorus or band. So yeah, the numbers have gotten bigger, which is great. Our band director, Mr. Sumner,
Hired the same day as you.
Yeah, hired the same day, and the same thing with our athletic programs, with our band. As numbers increase, we know some of the coaches and directors feel bad that they're going to have to purchase more uniforms or equipment, but to the board, myself, that's a good thing. If we can spend money on purchasing more equipments and band uniforms and things of that nature, that means our numbers are increasing and more kids are getting involved.
My kids were both in band, and so we went to all of the football games, everywhere, and the band was a good size at the time, and it was like football games where these guys played football in between the band shows, that's what that was. And so it's kind of sad then for a while to see, especially if you saw a school of similar size like Edgewood, and you have a much bigger band. Mm-hmm. It's like, what's going on here?
Right.
So it's nice to see that.
Yeah, and over the past 5, 8, 10 years, the fine arts in a lot of school districts have really taken off. Where you're starting to see a lot more students involved, which is great. And our band, they put in just as much time as the football players do, and I think there's that mutual respect with the band and the football players. They support one another. The football team needs the band at every game just as much as the band needs the football players, and I think that develops that relationship, and it gets students more involved because they want to be a part of that family and that enjoyment and that excitement and so forth. So yeah, it's great to see the numbers increase.
It's kind of a point I'd like to make is that my daughter, she started in like the mid-late 90s, I think, graduated in 2003. Okay. Anyway, in band, and at that point they were having severe economic problems, and they cut the music program into schools, and so she actually started learning her instruments. They had a non-school related program at the Conneaut Art Center, and you paid money, and your kids. So a lot of kids did that, but not as many kids did it that would have if it was part of the school program. So, when you're talking about cutting things from schools, that lasted a long time, the effects of that, even long after they had restored the programs. I mean, that really impacted for years and years and years. Yeah, and we're coming out of it, but we're going back to the last century.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I've shared that with the board even through the interviewing process over a year ago. A lot of districts go through difficult financial times. Looking at our budget when taking over last July and August, we looked at the possibility of putting a new levy on this past spring. Just kind of being fiscally responsible and absorbing some positions through attrition, whether it's retirement or resignation. We've been able to stay afloat financially. It doesn't look until the spring of 2017, so we've kind of delayed the process a couple years. But I've shared with the board, and they know that our extracurricular, our fine arts are very, very important for our students because it keeps them actively involved. It teaches them respect and responsibility, some leadership qualities. So I'll do everything possible in my position, the board knows that, not to make any cuts to any of our fine arts programs, not to go pay to play, because even though $25 or $50 doesn't seem like a lot, it is a lot to some of our families. Sure. And so that's one thing I've always stood by. I don't believe in pay to play, and I don't want to cut any of our fine arts because that involves so many of our students. And like you said, if you cut it for a few years, it has a long negative effect on our student body. And so it only puts those families that are even struggling financially in a much more difficult situation. And we should not let our students participate in things just because they don't have the income to. So we're going to continue to provide those as long as I'm here, because I'm a firm believer in having those opportunities for those students.
I just wanted to mention back in the 90s, when I was talking about the music programs were cut, they were charging people, it was actual, the cost of participating in the school systems, didn't put any money in. And it was talk like you play football, it was like $800 to play.
Yeah.
Plus shoes and
Plus
everything
whatever,
else.
yeah.
And the football program went downhill, and we had some crummy teams.
Right.
And pay for participation has ended in Conneaut. It ended a few years ago. Before we were here.
Yeah, correct. Yep.
So, and last year, I don't know if it was a complete and total correlation, if that's fair to say that, but Conneaut had its first decent, I'm not that expert at football, but a good team where in past years they had been struggling.
Right, and again, the numbers are increasing there. They've almost doubled under Coach Dobrin's leadership over the past 4 or 5 years. But I think that plays a large part into it. I myself, I grew up in poverty with a single mother, and I played football, basketball, and baseball all through junior high and high school. And if it were pay to play back then, in all honesty, my mother wouldn't have been able to afford it, and so I probably would not have participated in those sports. And those being involved in any extracurricular, whether it's fine arts or athletics, again, it teaches us respect, responsibility. It puts us around positive people in our life and gives us some leadership qualities and so forth. So again, you don't want to, you lose a lot of students because of that. And you not only, whether they're great athletes or a great performer in fine arts, whether they're great or they're average or they're just beginning, you don't want to lose any of those students because of that.
Sometimes in the heat of a campaign for school levy, there are the ardent, I can't take any more taxes kind of people, and sometimes they'll use the argument that school is for education, it's the 3 R's and that kind of stuff, and it really isn't.
Right. It's, there's no doubt that we're all here for education. That's the main goal. But if you look at history, if you look at statistics and students that are involved in fine arts and athletics, just all the positive things that come out of it for our students, and we've talked about a couple of them this morning, but it just gives students something else to do. I'd rather have students staying after school and participating in athletics or fine arts than just walking out on the streets and doing something unsupervised. So the more we can keep them in our schools and under positive role models, the better adults they're going to turn out to be and lead them in the right direction. So it kind of goes hand in hand. I'm one of those superintendents. It's not all about winning with our sports programs. To me, it's all about teaching our kids how to be a respectful student athlete and respect the opposing team, and what you get out of it from those type of qualities are more important to me. And we have some great coaches in place. We have a great band director and so forth that they're providing those opportunities for our students, which is a wonderful thing. So.
We had this top sports athlete thing. We did a great wave, and I spoke to a young man from Lakeside, and he was big on wrestling. Wrestling's my life, he says. And so I thought, well, in the back of my mind, I think, well, think of some other things you do. I can always ask, what do you do besides sports? And guys in the symphonic band, and so it's. Yeah, and sometimes you see football players that run out and play with the band, and they go back to play football.
Right. And we'll never discourage any student from doing that. But again, that's a key example of how athletics does tie into academics, because even having a couple children of my own, they're expected by their coaches to maintain a certain GPA to keep their grades up, and if they weren't participating in those, the only expectations they had were just to get through school, just to do whatever I minimally could do just to pass through school. Where a lot of our coaches hold those student athletes to higher goals, so it does keep them prepared academically through participating in extracurricular activities.
I was talking to Ken Parise, who's the head football coach at Edgewood and was a former football coach in Conneaut, and is from, I think, Boardman, somewhere in that area. And he was talking, this was at the Urban Meyer football camp last week at Spire, and he said something about the 4 and 40 program. And what he's talking about is you have 4 years of high school, and you talk about those 4 years for the next 40.
Mm-hmm.
So while you're there, you should do as much as you
As much
can.
as you can, yeah. And again, I know I bring up my kids a lot, but my son was an example. You know, being a senior, he wanted to be involved in as much as possible, not only athletically, but certain clubs after school that he had joined, and going to athletic events and so forth. And so he enjoyed his senior year, and that's the way it should be, because he won't ever have it again. So
Right.
He'll spend the next 40 years talking about his high school career and so forth. So, but you know, again, you're talking about academics and grades and so forth, and I had mentioned while we were on break that another program that we're looking forward to next school year in our district, which we're probably the only school district in the state of Ohio to do it. Our slogan's gonna be "Failure's not an option," where every student in grades 3 through 12 won't receive a D or an F on the report card. And a lot of people say, well, how's that possible? Because all students get D's or F's. We're not saying that it's going to be 100%. There's always going to be those students or those families that don't take advantage of the programs we're going to have. But basically, the program that we're going to do, we're going to use a tutor that is credentialed, has the proper certification through the Ohio Department of Education. We'll line a tutor up for every grade level in grades 3 through 12. So it will be a 1 for 3rd, 4th, 5th, all the way up to seniors. And to give you, I always give this example that if you're a 9th grade math teacher and I'm a student and I take a test, there's 20 problems and I miss 10 of them and I get a 50% F. Well, that does a couple things, negative things. One, I've got an F of 50%, which is very, very difficult to bring up to a C or above. So I'm one test into the grading period and I'm going to struggle to bring that grade up to a C. Two, as a teacher, you're going to move on to the next unit, and if I didn't grasp those skills or understand those skills, odds are I'm going to continue to fail in that course, which then leads to a lower graduation rate because they fall behind credit-wise. What this program will allow students to do is, I as a student, if the same thing happens, then I can go to school before school starts, before the teachers arrive, for about 45 minutes. We'll have a tutor set up in the morning before teachers are there, or while teachers are in their professional development time, for about 45 minutes. If it takes me 1 day, 2 days, 2 weeks to go through tutoring, now that's the parents or the child would have to get to school on their own. We won't provide transportation, but the student can go to tutoring 1 day, 2 days, 2 weeks. When the tutor and the student feels that they're prepared enough and understand the material that they failed the test on, they can go back and retake that test. They don't have to retake the whole test, they just have to retake the skills that they didn't accomplish on that assessment. Then if I do pass that test, we don't want to make it not fair for those students that did pass it the first time around. So if I as a student retake the test and I get all those problems correct, then I go up to the lowest C, which let's say is a 75%. Now that does a couple things. It takes the F away from me, and there's two positive things. The F is gone and now I have a C. I actually have a passing grade. Most importantly, I actually learned the material I needed to learn. So odds are when the teacher moves on to the next unit, I'm going to have a better understanding of that unit as well. So that is going to be set up for every grade level 3 through 12. If I retake the assessment and fail again, I go back to tutoring and I retake it again. Because if it takes you 1 time to study and pass an assessment, and if it takes me 3 or 4, it really doesn't matter.
As long as you learn it.
As long as we learn it, and that's the main reason why we're in education. So, you know, that's going to have a positive impact on our students, because we all know when students fail, when they fall behind and they're failing a course, it leads to poor attendance, poor discipline in school.
Yeah, snowball effect in all kinds of areas.
Effect. So we're hoping, you know, and we're very confident that through this program, the students are going to learn, they're going to pass their courses, our graduation rate will increase, the percentage of our students being held back will decrease, and our behavior will start to go in a positive direction as far as when it comes to discipline or suspension. So there's so many good things as a result of the program, and we're looking forward to it. So, you know, it would be nice as a parent knowing that my child in those grades has every opportunity to get an A, B, or C in every class they take, which is great. And what's funny is I ran this idea by my son, who's a high school student, and he said, well, Dad, that won't work. Why would you do that? Students would purposely fail tests in order to retake it. But like I told him, none of our students purposely walk into class wanting to fail a course or a test. They don't. Our students want to do well. They want to impress their teachers. That's just human nature. But then I shared with him, wonder if something happens in our family and you can't study for a test, or you have 4 tests and you're up till 2 o'clock in the morning studying, and you make a mistake and you slip on one test. You want to have that opportunity to retake it and get that C rather than an F. And then it clicked, and he said, yeah, you're right, there are times like that where I could have taken advantage of something like that. So we're excited. It's a great, so our slogan's, failure is not an option. We're giving every student an opportunity to get an A, B, or C next school year and learn the material.
Yeah, learning the material is kind of the big thing, because if it's not math, it's a history test or something, and
anything.
You go through life thinking that John Adams was the first president because you.
Yeah.
What school did you go to, kid?
Yeah, it's a self-esteem thing too. Is we all know when we know it as adults, when we fail, we're very disappointed, and it's in ourselves and what we've done. And so if we're given every opportunity to succeed, it also boosts our self-esteem. It gets us excited about going to school and doing well and so forth. So, and there's always going to be that situation where something happens in a family late at night and you don't get a chance to study, and why should we penalize those kids if that does happen? We should give them every opportunity to retake the material and learn it and do better.
So 2 questions come to mind though. How do you pay for it, and where do you get the tutors?
Well, the tutors we've always had. Through Title I, through our federal dollars, we've always had some, we call them tutors, we can call them interventionists, but again, they're licensed teachers that come. This past year we had 10 in our district, K through 12, and they worked about 5.5 hours per day. They're all funded through federal dollars and not our general fund. And so, and through Title I, that's the purpose of Title I, is to hire tutors in order for those students at risk.
They'll be working more hours now, wouldn't they?
Well, what we're going to do is we're going to change it where our tutors in the past have worked about 5.5 hours. They started sometime in October, finished sometime in May. We're going to reduce the hours so they can start with us from the first day of school to the last day of school, because students are struggling before October, and so we want to have those people in place. So by reducing their hours, we can lengthen out their days as well. Plus, what's nice, a lot of our tutors, because they're licensed teachers, when the end of the school year comes and we lose a teacher through retirement, resignation, they're usually the first ones we look to, because they know our district, they know our students, and they know the building, and they're a good fit. We've done that the past couple of years. So it's not additional spending. We're just using the same monies that we've had in the past. We're just using them a little bit more differently, a little bit more effectively, and we're just not targeting those at-risk students. We're targeting all our students in our district. So.
You have one more program you want to talk about?
Yeah, we're excited about it, and we talked about sometimes financial impacts that districts have, and I know several years ago they, due to budget cuts, high school transportation was eliminated for students in grades 9 through 12. So we're excited to announce I've worked with, there's an outside busing company, Community Busing, that we've been working with. They've come in and really torn apart our K-8 bus routes, and to see if we could realign them, make them run a little bit more effectively for our students. And by doing that, we're able to phase in fresh transportation for our freshman students next year. So our K-8 students, they have the 1 mile radius. Our grade 9 students will have a 2 mile radius, meaning any freshman student. And it's gonna be freshmen and their older siblings. So if I'm a incoming freshman and I have a brother or sister that's a sophomore, junior, or senior, they will also receive transportation too. And that was a goal of mine when taking over as superintendent. I'm fortunate where my son went to the high school and he recently graduated, they provided transportation. But I thought if they didn't, and if I didn't have the means of a car for him, how would he get to school?
Yeah.
and that's very difficult for some of our high school students.
Especially when they're all the way, some of them down Monroe, almost
Right.
Pierpont.
Right, that makes it very, very difficult. So we're excited. We're going to transport our freshman students this year and their older siblings. The goal is the following school year to phase in transportation for our sophomore students and eventually work our way up to grades 9 through 12. And so we're very, very excited about that, to provide that transportation. And again, the goal is our freshmen and eventually our sophomore, because those are usually the student populations that don't have driver's license. So they're either have to ride with an older sibling or try to find a ride, or mom and dad have to, or grandma, grandpa, somebody has to try to bring them. So this will help out a lot with attendance at the high school as well, because sometimes if there's bad days or they can't get the car started or something happens, then they can't come to school. Well, this will allow them the opportunity to be able to provide that for them. So
you have this group commit. So is somebody else taking over the busing? Oh.
Well, one of the goals when taking over as superintendent through our transportation department, all the responsibilities in the transportation department, which there's a lot, not only the routing, communication with parents, training of our bus drivers, various payroll, various reports that need to be submitted to Ohio Department of Education, which determines our funding on an annual basis, evacuation drills. There's a lot in our transportation department, and that's kind of been broken up over the course of the last couple of years with a number of individuals. Our technology director would do some, the director of special services, her secretary would do some things, my secretary, the maintenance supervisor, myself. So there's 5, 6, 7 people's hands that are tied into transportation right now. So if there is an issue in transportation and I have to address it, I usually have to talk to 5 or 6 other people first to see where we are. So what we're going to do through the services of this company is have a transportation supervisor through the company, where that person would be located at the bus garage. They take care of all the routing, they take care of communicating with parents, they take care of communicating with administrators when it comes to student discipline, communicating with myself. And so again, it's a way of streamlining things, because transportation of our students it's a very, very high priority on our list, because one, the safety of the students, and two, we can't educate them if they're not in school. And so by hiring a supervisor, again, it's a way of utilizing our current financial situation and being able to provide that service without increasing our expenditures. So again, even by taking a look at this company, taking a look at our K-8 routes, we were able to phase in transportation to our freshman students and their siblings without adding a driver or a bus on the road.
But this company is they're not bringing their own drivers?
No.
Okay.
No. Yeah, our drivers are still our drivers, our buses are still our buses.
I can remember several years ago there were 2 school systems and they were both in financial trouble. One says we are going to contract with private bus company to do this to save money. Another one says we're going to stop contracting with a private bus company and hire our own to save money.
Right.
So,
a lot of our employees and our bus drivers, they're people that live in our community, they work in our community, and so our drivers are still our drivers, our buses are still the district's buses. This company is just for management services. It's just a supervisor, which is your supervisor and your administrators are non-union positions, so it's basically just contracting for a supervisor and all their management services, which they'll, which comes down to preventive maintenance, it comes down to the bus reports and our supplies and materials and things of that nature. So it's just getting things organized and streamlining things and making it run a little bit more effectively. So we're very excited. So
yeah, I mean, if you can do it with the same number of people, the same number of buses.
Yeah, didn't increase a driver, didn't increase a bus on the road. So for the same amount of money, we're able to phase in our freshmen.
So why do you have to phase it in every year then? Why not? If you got enough people, why don't you just go right through 12th grade now?
Well, again, it's we haven't done it in a number of years, and we want to make sure we do it the right way. So again, it's the numbers. We wanted to be safe with it. Eventually phasing in. Eventually, when we phase in the sophomore, juniors, and seniors, we're eventually going to have to add a bus or a bus driver. Okay. That's human nature. That's just the way it's. So hopefully, over the course of the next couple of years, watching our finances and through when people retire, resign, and do we need that position? Can we save money here and there? If we can save money in other positions and provide other positions such as an additional bus driver or bus on the road to provide transportation for our students, we'll do that. But we knew freshmen and their older siblings we could do without adding
Right,
anything
okay,
this year.
excellent.
Yep.
Okay. And was there,
Yeah, we were talking some programs for next school year, and I know we talked briefly about the Big Spartan, Little Spartan, the mentoring program. There is another mentoring program we're doing next year, which I'm very, very excited and I'm going to be a part of as well. We took all our adults, teachers, administrators in grades 6 through 12, and we're going to take those adults and we're going to take our student population and break our student population up to be matched up with an adult. Now that I'm at the middle school next year, as an example, Mr. Taylor will assign me anywhere from 13 to 15 middle school students. They'll all be in the same grade level. So if I have 13 or 15 sixth grade students next year, I, as well as the other adults, the teachers, the last 30 minutes of the school day will be it's a mentoring program called CAP, which stands for Caring Adult in the Building. I will meet with those 13 to 15 students every day for 30 minutes at the end of every school day throughout the course of the school year. When they move on to 7th grade, I move with them. When they move on to 8th grade, I move with them as well.
So you're not stuck in the 6th grade.
Right. And you follow those students. And the purpose of the program is a lot of our teachers, if you take a 6th grade math teacher, for example, that teacher may see 100 students throughout the course of the day. It's very difficult for them to communicate with 100 different sets of parents, grades, and so forth. But if that 6th grade teacher is assigned 13 to 15 students, he or she only has to worry about those 13 to 15 students. Those students will develop a success plan or personal action plans. They're going to set long and short-term goals, how they're going to reach those goals. And so my 13 to 15 students will develop their goal plan. We'll meet on a regular basis. How are they doing on their goals? How are they doing academically? How are they doing behavioral? How are they doing with attendance? So as a classroom teacher or myself as a superintendent, I'm only communicating, I'm developing that relationship with those students and their parents. And so it increases the parent-teacher communication. So as a 6th grade math teacher, instead of the 100 students, I only have to worry about my 15 because somebody else is taking care of the other 85 students and monitoring their behavior, how they're doing academically, communicating with parents. So we all know in grades 6 through 12, there's some students that just get lost in the shuffle because not everybody's can keep an eye on every single student. Well, with this program, every student's accounted for. And so as they go through grades 6 through 12, they're going to be matched up with a mentor. So if I'm a 6th grade student, I have one mentor all through junior high, and then when I become a freshman, I have one mentor all through high school. And it develops that relationship between that student and that teacher as well. So it's going to be a wonderful program for our students. It will develop those relationships, increase communications, and hopefully catch those kids if they are struggling attendance-wise or behavior, catch it early on and address it so it doesn't continue to snowball and get worse and worse.
So a goal could be, I'm going to get perfect attendance this year, and I'm going to make a B in math, and
Right.
I'm on the football team, but I'm crummy, but I'm going to work hard so that I can at least play.
Right. We're going to try to focus on, a personal goal, an academic goal, and something that they can, and they'll identify barriers. What's probably going to prevent you from achieving this? Well, then, as adults, we need to help them get over those barriers and overcome them. So again, it's a great program. I'm excited. I think I'm mostly excited because I get to work with 13 or 15 kids every day, and that's important to me because that's what we're in education for, is to kind of lead that path for those students and lead them down the right direction. So we'll help educate those kids on, not every student has to go to a 4-year college.
Right.
There's so many trades out there now. There's so many things that students can do, and having that mentor to show them that or educate them, because I may have a student that has a specific desire. If I don't know the resource, I have other teachers and people that I can tap into, and if I can provide a resource for that student, we're going to go ahead and do that.
Sure.
So we're excited.
Right.
A lot of new things.
Yes.